am left alone, with a trace of the night on the way back down from the sky where you left my soul. Can you help me fly? I can't resist, 'cause you have got a hold on me. And all these thoughts, when you are here, you light up the dark sides to leave in the night shine. You're the sun I need today, shining bright in every way. You take my life and light every side. You fade the dark inside to live in the night shine.
These here are the 1998 to 2000 New Flyer C40LF CNGs, the first New Flyer C40LFs, and the very first low-floor buses for New York City Transit. The fleet numbers that these buses range from are 800 to 989, with 800 to 801 being 1998 demos, 802 to 856 being 1999 models, and 857 to 989 being 2000 models. 2 units were given to MBTA up in Boston and were renumbered as 6000 to 6001 to jumpstart the 2001 New Flyer C40LF order. So these buses were solely delivered to Jackie Gleason Depot, which is the only depot to ever have them, and the very first depot ever in the MTA history to ever have low-floor buses. These buses are the CNG variant of the New Flyer D40LF. The D40LF debuted back in 1989 under New Flyer Industries as basically a low-floor version of the New Flyer D40HF, originally made exclusively for Canadian transit authorities, but the D40LF became popular in the United States as the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey became the first bus operating agency in the United States to ever receive their first fleet of D40LFs between 1989 and 1991. New York City Transit tested various low-floor buses, but unfortunately, many of them floundered. So fasten your seatbelts, everyone, because it's time to take a history trip. Here we go. It all starts back in 1989 when New York City Transit first tested out a New Flyer D40LF demo out of Queens Village Depot. However, the demo itself later went back to New Flyer Industries as New York City Transit was not ready for low-floor buses at that time. Anyways, moving on 7 years later, they then tested out a 1996 Orion 6 hybrid demo. However, it did not run for passenger service. This demo bus features a third axle and a second rear door, which to me, it looks bizarre. However, the demo became a huge success as New York City Transit later received their very first fleet of low-floor hybrid buses in 1998. Moving on 1 year later, they then tested out a 1997 New Flyer D40LF demo, numbered as F1997, and ran for passenger service out of Mother Clara Hill Depot. It was unclear if the demo did pass or fail, but the demo ended up going back to New Flyer Industries and was never seen again. Moving on another year later, They then tested out a 1998 Novabus LFS Generation 1 demo, numbered as 995, out of Hudson Pier Depot. Unfortunately, it floundered, so it ended up going back to Novabus due to several structural problems and was never seen again. Moving on during the same time, New York City Transit decided to give Grumman a second chance after what happened to their Grumman 870s back in the 1980s. They tested out the Grumman Advanced Technology Transit Bus, otherwise known as the Stealth Bus. This unit runs in a Cummins CNG engine along with an electric propulsion system, but unfortunately it floundered, so it ended up going back to Grumman and was never seen again. New Flyer Industries was given a third chance by the MTA to test out 2 New Flyer C40LF demos. And here are the results after this successful test. Moving on to the specs of these buses. These C40LFs were delivered with brand new features that were not shown on previous deliveries. They were delivered with the Luminator Megamax flip-dot destination signs, and these also feature the amber rectangular reflectors on the front lights, as seen here in this picture of 953. Now moving on to the powertrain. So these C40LFs signify the use of the extremely powerful Detroit Diesel Series 50G engine with the Allison B400R WTEC transmission. But brace yourselves, because not only they're loud, but they can also make a mean backfire, and together they sound like this. So, what do I think about these buses? Well, they're okay. They're a decent fleet. These were once known as the loudest buses of New York City Transit, even though the title was given to the Orion 7 CNGs, but in my opinion, these are the third loudest buses of New York City Transit. with the Orion 7 CNGs being the second loudest buses of New York City Transit. And the Orion 5 CNGs being the #1 loudest buses of New York City Transit and MTA Bus Company. But hey, that's just my opinion. Before we move on with this review, here are some thoughts and opinions about these buses by my good friend Cedric, aka Vulnerable Toyota. Take it away, Cedric.
Hello everyone, and welcome to my contribution to the 1998 through 2000 New Flyer C40LFs. Looking at these C40LFs since back in 2007, I see these as the first best CNG gods before the Orion 5 CNGs. I was mesmerized by their boxy shape with the slope rear ends, and what I like most from them is their backflyer flutterage. Plus, their acceleration is very efficient. Riding these mostly on the B35 is a joy of CNG pride, but it was not enough until October 2012, seeing the newer siblings as the 2011 New Flyer C40LFs taking over service to retire these older siblings. But these two varied generation C40LFs may have equal taste because of their designs, but I prefer the newer ones better than these older ones. Whereas the newer ones is less pollutive and more seductive when it comes to features, but the older ones is that my main concern, no black trimming on their windows, which is unattractive. And I personally remastered one of my recent reviews of these older C40LFs and the newer ones recently last summer until the fall. So thank you guys for watching my contribution, and I'm taking you back over to the main reviewer.
So, what do I think about these buses? Well, like I said earlier, they're okay. They were decent fleet. Aside from all that, they served New York City Transit very well for the past 12 to 13 years. During their days with the MTA, 915 was the only unit to ever receive the golden LED destination signs. As you can see here, some of these units were then given the white back, while the rest remained with their original black backs. These are the only low-floor buses to not receive the decal scheme. I would have imagined them getting the decal scheme, but oh well. Before they were retired, more than 8 units were given to West Farms Depot up in the Bronx and stayed there until they were retired completely. 801 was the only unit to ever end up at College Point Depot in MTA bus as a pilot unit for the incoming order of newer C40LFs that were going to replace them. By 2011, these C40s started to leave the property, and by 2013, they were all gone, completely wiped out. Though it's a shame that these buses are now gone, but luckily, 942 and 978 were retained as training units at the MTA PD K9 Training Center in Stormville, New York. 848 currently survives as a movie prop bus under Picture Cars East in Red Hook, Brooklyn, and was renumbered as 8918. It's a shame that none of these units got an opportunity to be preserved in the museum fleet, but that's just how things go. So as for these 1998 to 2000 New Flyer C40LFs, these buses are gone, but most certainly will not be forgotten. They will always be remembered as the very first low-floor buses for New York City Transit. So with that being said, this is Sonic 57053 wishing you guys a happy Thanksgiving and wishing you guys to stay safe and stay healthy, and thanking you guys for watching.
I know the reason she's so far away.
When the feeling's gone and I am left alone, with a trace of the night on the way back down from the sky where you left my soul. Can you help me fly? I can't resist, 'cause you have got a hold on me. And all these thoughts, when you are here, you light up the dark sides to leave in the night shine. You're the sun, I need you there, shining bright, and then to leave in the night shine. You're the sun, I need you there, shining bright, and then away. I can't resist, 'cause you have got a hold on me. And all these thoughts, when you are here, you light up the dark sides. Can you help me fly? I can't resist, 'cause you have got a hold on me. And all these thoughts, when you are here, you light up the dark sides. Can you help me fly? Can you help me fly?